It'll show. Hello. Hi. Welcome to the Poly Pimp. Hey, Raheem. How are you doing? Looking very handsome and hot chocolatey over there.
That is very kind of you to say, ma'am. I am doing well this evening. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, you have like this glow on your face. I don't know if it's your
I do.
plant right there. You have a lot of beautiful plants back there. Are you a plant man?
I am a plant man. You know this about me, woman. Don't do that. Yes, I actually counted my
Oh,
plants.
no, you have.
I actually counted my plants yesterday, and I'm at almost at 100. I'm at
Oh,
like 90 something plants, so they have taken over my life, and I'm planning on getting a few this weekend. So. Oof.
has it become an addiction?
It's become like a addiction, little coping kind of thing. It helps me grieve, and it helps me take care of something. And you actually take care of them because they got personalities, and you
Oh,
play music
they
for
do.
'em. Now I got about 12 plants in my bedroom. That's the first. So yeah,
That is very interesting. I like that. Well, yeah, that is interesting. I have plants, but outside. I was
yeah.
actually thinking about going to get a bromeliad before the end of the season. I'm gonna try to nurse it until next summer. It's a tropical plant, but it's a Leo plant. So I wanted to have one. They die every year when I buy them. So I decided I'm gonna go before they disappear and see if I can keep it alive until next summer. So that's gonna be my next challenge, I guess.
Good luck with all that.
Yeah.
Bringing a tropical plant in and into your home and difficult, but I don't know how I'm keeping all these plants alive, but they stay alive. So
They might like your touch. You might have some magic touch.
I do. I'm told that I do. I'm told that I do.
Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. Welcome to the Poly Pimps. We have one half of the pimps missing at the time being. Just a few changes happening in life. But we are here. We are here to keep talking to you and bringing you conversations and answering your questions. The ones in the, what do you call that? In in the background who don't want to come forward. We're here to bring up all your concerns, issues, questions, and conversations. So, Raheem, this is your second time on the show with us. So, thank you again for saying yes to being here with us tonight. Um, Maybe for those who don't know you, you can give us the quick little background on of who Raheem is and why did you say yes to participating on the Poly Pimps?
Uh, Raheem is well, I guess I'm local to Atlanta now, from Philadelphia. I did one of you guys' earlier shows last year. Forgot what we was talking about. We were talking about, all things poly, and at the time I had my own kind of podcast live situation called The Poly Couple Next Door.
Yeah.
And we used to do a lot of discussions around being poly and having a family, like literally being married, having a kid, how you introduce partners and mix all that in together without it being like a triad or a polygamous situation. So that did receive a lot of traction last year. I no longer do that podcast, but yeah, we aligned on a lot of things last year. So that's how we got on the podcast last year. But me, I'm a father, I'm a plant father, I'm an artist, creative, I'm a lover, I'm a Virgo, amongst other things.
All right. So I guess for our audience, you are definitely polyamorous because a lot of times they want to know who our guests are because we've had different um well, sexual orientation, love orientation. We've had it all on here.
I am a heterosexual polyamorous grown man.
All right. Thank you for the beautiful introduction. For those who are new, I don't think anybody here is new, but my name is Me Too. Sky is missing tonight. She can't be here, but she is thinking of you guys. I am one half of the Poly Pimps. I am the Haitian hottie. I started this podcast to have a conversation mainly in the Haitian community because we have so many different taboos. Life in general is a taboo in our community. So I decided to start a conversation basically. And about a year and a half, almost 2 years later now, we're still here discussing everything poly and relationships. We are not experts, but we are here to talk about our own experiences. So, tonight, what is the topic? We are navigating emotional complexities. Um, hey, Lonnie. So it's just, I hear it all the time, and I've had people ask me, you know, you say you have several people, you date more than one person, but are you just like hanging out with them, or do you have a favorite, or do you have only one person that you love, and then the rest of them are just like nothing to you? So there were a lot of questions. So I decided to talk about emotional complexities, especially in the polyamorous life. So, can you really fall in love, or can you be in love? Can you love more than one person? Um, and what do you consider the other partners, I guess, outside of that one person that they feel like should be your favorite or is your favorite?
After thinking about the question for a while, but the easy answer is yes, you can. You can love more than one person. Um, but the more nuanced answer is it really depends on the person, like you as a person. I know women who will say, I literally don't have the energy to entertain more than one person. That's outside of having sex with more than one person, because that's also a thing too. Some people just can't be sexual with more than one person. It goes against their spiritual beliefs, how they view their body, their chemistry, their biology. They can't do it. They won't do it. However, what I'm saying is, if that person, if that individual person can't or won't allow themselves to love more than one person, then that's not a thing for them. People in our community, we are people that do it, that embrace it. I think that there are different levels. You say one thing, can you love more than one person? Sure, but you might be a person who I love one person, but I can be in relationship with a whole bunch of others, right? Meaning
Right.
I have the person I love at home. He or she is my nested partner. But what I get outside of my home is physical connections that aren't based on love, right? So it really depends on the person. It depends on the situation. Depends on you guys' agreements. But ultimately, even if you don't practice, like, even if you don't live a polyamorous lifestyle, you can have the ability to love more than one person. Even if you're monogamous, that could still be something that's in you, right? Um, you do it for your kids. You know what I mean? You love your kid. You love more than one of your kids, and it's just like your friends. You love more than one of your friends, right? But then once you throw like forever in, or marriage, or traditional mononormative type of things, then you can't do it. But again, my short answer is you absolutely can, if that's your makeup. You know what I mean? Some people will, especially if you're a monogamous person, you say, I'm with one person, I won't even allow myself to be entertained by another person. However, you might have a monogamous person who had a relationship. That relationship ended, and as we all know, you got the remnants of love for someone else, right? And maybe you didn't wait to get over that person, then you fell in love with somebody else. So now you got these two people you love, right? So
I
sometimes it
never
happens
thought
by,
of it that way.
yeah, sometimes it happens by accident where you're not actually going out to say, all right, my life is such that I'm out there, you try to love more than one person. Sometimes you still have love for another person, and then you're trying to move on. That's why people go back to their exes, right? That's why people cheat and go back to their exes, because they still have that love, but they tried to move on no matter what. So now they got two people that they love, and now they got to make a decision. Do I go back to the situation where I left for some reason, or do I go with this new situation who's just like, I'm a better option, right? So now I got these two people I love, right? So sometimes it happens without any real intent. It just happens because that's how adulting works sometimes, where you have these people in your life and the love just doesn't go away. But again, it depends on how you're made up. If you're one of those people that just loves forever, if I loved you, I love you forever, you always got a piece of me, all that. And then this person comes back around, you're just like, ooh, I didn't realize I still love this person. And now
I
I got two people, and that's just speaking from a monogamous landscape. Now,
hmm
polyamorous landscape, many loves, right? We're talking about many loves, right? Literally. So I don't think it's so much a thing for polyamorous people, but I do would get you what you're saying, where you're saying somebody who doesn't live this lifestyle is asking, how could that be? How is that a thing for you that you can love more than one person? Because I can't see it. So I get the question. I didn't understand the question really at first, but I get it. It's like somebody who doesn't agree with this lifestyle, who doesn't live this lifestyle, them asking, oh, how could you love more than one person? And I just think a lot of that is conditioning too. Like you can't in a romantic setting or a romantic uh relationship, it's only room for one person. And that's obviously for us, that's just not a thing.
That's right. And that's why a lot of times I like to approach conversations from a non religious point of view, because I feel like religion, when once you approach it from that angle, it's like, well, that's all there is to it, because I believe this, because they've always told me that's what I should do as far as my belief. Then there's nothing else outside of it, even though that there might be an obvious other reason why. But most of the time, because of the religious aspect of it, people tend to kind of shy away from even discussing any topic further, because it might be in contradiction with their beliefs or their religion.
Right.
So, and really, as far as the monogamous part of it, I know I've always been told, you're not supposed to love more than one, be with more than one. That's cheating. That's this, that's that. But I remember at a point in my life, I definitely loved more than one person. There was nothing I could do about it. I've had crushes while I was in a relationship, didn't act on it, but that doesn't stop the fact that I had crushes on other people, you
Right.
know. But of course, you feel bad for even feeling that way about somebody else than your mate, because you were told you're not supposed to. And cheating starts the second that you start thinking about it, not
Mm.
necessarily when you lay with that person. So it was always very interesting. And then you mentioned the whole being in a relationship, breaking up, and then being with somebody else. And then you realize, wait a minute, I still have feelings for that person. That's why people go back to their exes. And I'm like, I never really thought of it that way. But now it's like, yeah, I have been there, definitely.
Right.
Um, where you're trying to move on, but it's like there's this pull, and it's not that you like it here, but you also like it there. So what do you do in that case? In a monogamous setting, it's definitely a no-no.
I think monogamous marriage and relationships is just the ultimate test of discipline, the ultimate test of self discipline, because you can't control your emotions, right? You can't control the fact that somebody comes into your eye line and you're attracted to that person, right? So it all comes down to discipline, right? I made this promise, I
Right.
made this commitment, right? Even if it's not marriage, I made this monogamous commitment to be exclusive, to, be engaged or married or whatever. I made this commitment to do this thing, right? So I think it comes down to just self discipline. It has nothing to do with emotion. You know what I mean? It has nothing to do with emotion, right? Because, especially for men, and that's no excuse to like instead of saying being committed, but breaking the promise, it's no excuse for that. However, men have the ability to separate, you know, sex and love.
Yeah.
We have that ability because we don't receive as much from sex that women do, right? We don't have, we don't receive the energy that women receive when having sex with a man, for instance. So we have the ability, how we are designed, we have the ability to separate the two. So for men, especially when you get into those comfortable stages, 2 3 4 years in, and 5 year marriage, 10 year marriage, you're really comfortable. So it comes down to a lot of being a lot of discipline to be there, to stay there. And of course love is, if you love your spouse, that's awesome, but it's still discipline. And I'm not saying just going out and having sex with somebody, but opening the door to anything that's outside of your relationship. But again, the ability is definitely there. I know that I've always had more than one woman on my mind. Always. You know what I mean? Always. And when I was married, it was just a matter of discipline, right? You just like, you know what? Because I said I wouldn't, and you do
I'm
that through your
gonna
vows. Yeah, you do that through your vows, right? Because I said I wouldn't do that, I'm not going to do it, right? That's what it comes down to.
You
I
know
said I
what?
would do that.
Why you mentioned the whole discipline, I'm so happy you're here tonight, because I like, even though you know this, but now that you're saying it out loud, it's like, yeah, it really all comes down to discipline. Because so many times, right, if we're gonna go into the cheating part, like where people see it as when you actually have sex with the other person, so many times people get face to face, and that you see that passion, and they're ready to kiss or whatever, and then one of them pulls away and says, oh, I can't, I have this person, that person in my life, and they can't. So they don't follow through with that act that they were about to do, right? So many people will say, oh, wow, they really overcame their feelings or their temptation. So I would say that was discipline, right? Even though you kind of got close, but you weren't there. You
Yep.
you didn't actually follow through with it. So that is very great discipline, but not really because you didn't want to.
Right.
The
Yes.
desire was
Again, yeah. But again, that's what makes it discipline. It has nothing to do with what your desire is. It's about what you committed to and what you said you're not going to do, or what you said you're going to do. Discipline and consistency is what gets you anything that you want, right? Same thing goes for if you're trying to pursue somebody, right? Consistency and discipline to say, hey, I'm gonna send this woman a text message every single morning, right? Consistency, right? Discipline is like, um again, just doing the things you say you're gonna do, and then you do that consistently. um but yeah, I mean, that's just generally how it works. That's just generally how it works. And um I think if people were to be more free in their thought process and relating to people, I think we would have better relationships. I think we would
Yes.
have better relationships, especially in a place like Atlanta, where the numbers are so skewed. You know what I mean? I do not envy single women in Atlanta. Like, I mean, it's ridiculous. So I just think that takes a little bit more understanding when it comes to relating. If you're going to be in a place like Atlanta, like say as a black woman, I just think you gotta readjust your expectations. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
so
I mean, I'm not telling women that, they need to settle, but there's something to be said for, if, like, for instance, if I go out, what's the day? Thursday. If I go out to some cool spot tonight, I'll go there by myself, and I promise you, there will be at least 10 groups of women that come in. If it's a nice spot or whatever. I mean, it can be a group of two, a group of three, group of four, whatever. But there will be groups and groups of women that come in. It
mhm.
might be a couple groups of guys kind of trickling in. Like, the numbers are insane. Lunch, happy hour, like in the city, happy hour, club. I mean, not, I don't really go to clubs, but say bar or, lounge or whatever, is always just a bunch of women. You know what I mean? And these are generally single women. So it's, I mean, I just don't envy them. You know what I mean? If you're a single woman and you're here looking for a husband, and ooh, it might behoove you to just open your mind up a little bit.
I don't know if the
To,
club is really where you should go looking for a husband.
no, I'm not saying club. I'm just saying, just in general. Uh,
Okay.
just in general, if you peep the landscape, when I go out, it can be breakfast, it can be what, it can be breakfast, it can be lunch. Uh, you'll see, like, this on the weekend, like, you'll see groups of women because they gotta huddle amongst themselves to go out and have a good time. And you see very, it's far less people out on dates. You know what I'm saying? It's just women out there just, trying to have a good time, but it's always just groups of women. So it just gives me some insight into what the ratio is. And I mean, it's still like 5-6 to 1. You know what I mean? Maybe more. And that's,
It's
and
alarming.
if you're a traditionalist, man, I'm just saying, if you're a traditional monogamous person, I'm not knocking monogamy at all. But if you're a traditional person, it's just tougher. It's just going to be
Yeah,
tougher for you. That's all.
I get it. We have a couple of comments. Hello, dear Nadia. She said, I wonder how many women would agree to the same ability. I think
Ability to
that question came up when you were talking about, uh, you know, being married for so many years, yada yada.
Oh, no, no. I think she's talking about separating sex and love.
Sex
Um,
and love, yeah.
I know a lot of them. I don't know how many would admit to it, but I know a lot of them. A lot of women. I know that a lot of women view that as masculine. So they generally don't lean into speaking about it unless they're really kind of overt and really like uh an extrovert when it comes to speaking of those things, but
Hmm.
not generally. I feel that women that are able to separate, they're just more liberated. You know what I mean? If they can, they advocate for their own pleasure, and they don't have to have love attached to their pleasure. I won't even limit it as far as just saying sex. I'll bucket into pleasure, because it doesn't have to be like, actual, like, intercourse or whatever. But um, I find that women that advocate for their own pleasure will admit to, like, listen, I can separate them. I need to be pleased in this way, and that's what I'm going to do. I like
And
those kind.
I'm gonna piggyback on that too because I have a lot of male friends, and I talk very openly about everything, sex, relationships, how they approach women, how women approach them, what's out there, craziness, and all that. And I also think is the conditioning of if you as a woman allow yourself to just sleep with somebody, you are of no value, or you are worth less and less every person. That's why we have body count. You have people who will ask body count. I mean, those people are not for me, but if you asking body counts, it's usually towards a woman, because a man can sleep with 100 women and they're like, oh yeah, he's definitely getting it. But a woman sleeps with 10 men, she's a hoe in these streets. She belongs to the streets. So a lot of times, even if a woman truly just wants sex from somebody, they have to mask it with, I want to be in a relationship with you. I can't do this and that with you unless we are in a relationship. What are we? Why are we already doing this? We're already doing that. Why are we not? They just want the title. And it doesn't matter if it's a relationship for 2 weeks, as long as they can say, oh, I slept with this person, but they were my boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
It's having the title for them that is important. And it's just like you say, some women, they don't know how to just be liberated and please themselves. Some women don't even want people to know that they masturbate, they please themselves, because it's a big no-no. I mean, it took me, obviously, throughout my journey in polyamory, I experienced, and I'm still experiencing friendship with sex, friends with benefits, just sexual partners, and they don't have any less importance in my life than somebody that I'm romantically involved with. The same respect that comes for those people come for my sexual partners as well, because at the end of the day, I tolerate you to some level. Some of them I have definitely love for you. We're just not romantically attached to each other. And some people ask me, how do you explain that? I'm like, I don't know. Like, when you're like, you have that kind of attachment to somebody, it's just, I don't necessarily have that attachment, but I am definitely attached to that person in different ways. So yeah, because they tell women they cannot sleep around because,
Mm-hmm.
again, they should not belong to the streets. I, I think I like belonging to the streets.
Listen, if that's the case, I know that there's a double standard, of course. And again, it's a lot of like old teaching. It's a lot of old teaching. And, I just think that one of my issues with monogamy and marriage, monogamous marriage, and when I was married, one of the issues that I brought up from when we were considering opening our marriage, it was like, why is it that everything around us has changed, but marriage has, right? The vows, like who wrote these vows? Like,
Right.
why are there standard vows for marriage? You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Why is it like a standard vow? I know people write their own vows, but they're just like, hey, if you don't write your own vows, we got some over here. Like,
Yeah.
what is that? You know what I'm saying? And it's a ceremony, right? It's a ceremony, and I feel that for it to be a ceremony for the love of two people, for it to be like the same thing no matter where you go, is nuts to me. Like, you go to a wedding tomorrow and it's going to look like the wedding you went to 10 years ago. You're in the church, if it's a Christian wedding, you're in the church, there's somebody, they come down the aisle, the father gives them away, and they do the little thing, and then they kiss, and that's the whole thing, and they march out. Just the
Yep.
whole setup is lame. You know
Yep.
what I'm saying? Like,
It is.
everything is lame about it. So it's just like, this is what you start in your life with another person with. And it's just, I don't know, for me, it's just kind of ridiculous that everything is changing. Everything has changed. But that thing has not changed. So it just says that it's just a little antiquated how we do that and how we step into marriage, right? It feels like there's no give in it. The thing I had with marriage, just thinking about it, not necessarily my marriage, but just
Mm-hmm.
thinking about it, is you're committing to, for better or for worse, but you don't know your worse, right?
Right.
It's an assumption, right? You don't know what your trigger is going to be 5 years from now,
Right.
right? You don't know what, someone's death is going, what kind of toll someone's death is going to take on you in 3 years,
Right.
right? You don't know what that thing is going to do to you, what that accident or what that lost job is going to do to you, right? You don't know what's going to happen if your house burned down and what's that going to do to your family, right?
Mm-hmm.
All the things. So to try to predict, future stuff is just it's just a difficult, like the thought of marriage is just a difficult proposition for me. Now that I've been married, and I opened my marriage up because I was like, everything I did in my marriage is non-traditional anyway, so it made sense that we opened it up. But thinking about it now, I have daughters, and I gotta, I talk to them like, listen, this is what it is. This is what it really is, right? I'm not giving them, I'm not hyped to walk them down the aisle or anything like that, because that's not the tradition I'm trying to pass on to them. The tradition I'm trying to pass on to them is like advocating for themselves, right? If you want to love more than one person, it's okay. This is how you do it. This is how you start making agreements and stuff like that. But I don't. I want them to know that there's an option, as opposed to, what, this is the thing. Like, this
It's
is it. This
interesting.
is all you live. This is your only goal in life, to
That's
get
it,
married.
right?
And that's how it was 30, 40 years ago. A woman's whole mission was to get, like, her whole value was placed on how she married,
Yeah.
you
And
know, if she
it still is today in so many different cultures and societies,
married.
because so many women are still seeking marriage regardless of what it may look like,
Right.
because they
It's
have
a
to
shame.
retain that status,
Yeah.
It is a shame. We had a comment. I think we'd be lying. Well, maybe it's not ladylike to say so. That's right.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, yeah.
But I like those ladies. I like those ladies. I listen, I
You like
really,
them
really,
loose?
I'm really in I'm listen, I'm into women that advocate for their pleasure, because I mean, I'm of the belief that I'm 46 years old, and I'm of the belief, especially women that I meet who are generally around my age, women that are generally around my age, that are, somewhere around my age, 6 times out of 10, they've had a long term relationship, either married or just with someone for a long time. Generally married, they had a
Mhm.
long term relationship, it ended, divorce, what have you, and they, kids, and they've done all the career stuff, all these things, and they get to a point where they're just like, you know what? I know exactly what I want. I know not necessarily what I want, but I know how I want to feel. You know what I'm saying? And how I want to feel is I want the energy. I want different energies in my life, right?
Right.
And that's on the poly side. But even on the monogamous side, women in, middle-aged women, they've been through enough. Probably, like I said, probably raised some kids, got older kids, looking at empty nesting and all that stuff. And they just like, I'm not here to play no more. You know what I'm saying? I've done all the work and I've done all the sacrificing, and I've had loveless relationships and all these things. And they're just like, nah, I'm not doing that anymore. Right. So I like the energy of women who are like, I'm not playing with my own desires and my own pleasure. So if it looks like dating multiple people or having different relationships with multiple people, that's what it is. That's what resonates with me. That's what feels good to me. And I like women who can lean into that and not fall into like these stereotypes.
Okay. I like that. We have one comment. Hey, dating Atlanta with Simply Bree. I believe the perception society paints regarding the image of women prevents us from living in our truth sexually, spiritually, etc. Totally agree, 100%. And she said, LOL, at you like them loose. Yes.
You know what? I agree. Let me see. I believe the perception society paints regard the image of prevents. I don't think that it prevents us. I think that again, I mean, we're saying the same thing, but is again, it's the teaching, right? It's
Mhm.
years and years and years and years of this teaching that women are here, when men are here, this is how you relate to each other, right? This is how you expand the species, right? This is how you multiply the species and yada yada yada. So again, I think that enough people are breaking those molds to have these kind of conversations, say, yo, that don't feel right. It don't feel right. Because even when you're, being a woman and or even being a man, you get into the thing that they told you you're supposed to do. I was married for 8 years. You do it because that's what you do, right? You get married, you do the kids and all that stuff. You do it the right way. And then
Right.
you get into the marriage like I was and was like, yo, this don't feel right. And I wasn't totally unhappy at that point, but I was just like, 50 years? What? 40 years? And this is even in a bad point in my marriage. This is 3 years in where I'm just like, 30, 40 years of just this? That's nuts to me. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? That's nuts to me. And I didn't know because, again, this is what they told you got to do. So I agree with you.
Exactly.
It's a picture they paint that we all got to live, right? And I especially hate that for women. I especially hate that for Black women, that there's been so much put on you guys that it's like you get to your 45 and you're grappling with the fact that you want to be free. Like that's what this whole thing's supposed to be about, being free. This country is supposed to be about being free, but now you got this stigma attached to you if you actually go ahead and exercise that freedom. And I think it's ridiculous.
I think so too. I am one of those people. I literally just fell into marriage, right? Because I was never against it, but I never talked about it either. It wasn't something that I felt like, oh, I can't wait. You know how most little girls,
Yeah,
they have the dream, right? They want to be
that's
married,
fantasy.
they want, the family. I never actually spoke about that because I don't know, it wasn't something that I aspired to do. And then it was like at some point it was kind of like, well, okay, I'm here and this is what's happening now. And I guess it's time to take that
Yeah,
step and do what's right. And then after the marriage, it was like, well, now that we're married, I guess it's time to have children.
got
And
kids, and it's so obligatory. It's like, this is what you do. This is
right.
what you do, and it's just I think it's just a lot of pressure to put on people. Like
And
this is what you do, but again, this is part of how this country is built. You gotta look at the laws around marriage. You get tax deductions and tax breaks if you're married,
a lot of
right?
incentives to get
If you
married.
incentives, they make it an incentive and they make it hard and terrible to get out of it, right?
Oh my
Because
gosh.
you pay into the system this is how you pay into the system. So it's really is political, right? You know what I'm saying? And then they make it easier for you to buy a house if it's two people, and you get breaks on that if it's two people. And they say, well, shit, if you have kids, you can get a tax credit. Like they ain't even hiding it.
Right. They,
So
Hey guys, can you hear me?
hey, Sky, welcome. Welcome. How are you doing?
I am good. I've been listening in. I wanted to jump in with the whole marriage thing. I love that conversation. I actually had a conversation today about it, and I was talking to a friend, and he talks about something about being submissive. And I was like, it was a trigger for me because it goes into the same conversation about marriage and how, I think submission and all of that started trending with Kevin Samuels, and just the whole conversation about what men want and what have you. And, my thought about it was, I think in 2024 we can have that conversation, but it looks different than 1940. I mean, there was a time when a woman needed a man for everything. And now a woman doesn't need a man at all. She wants a man, and it's a different energy. Like, she can provide for herself. She can buy her own house. She can drive anywhere she wants. She can take travel. And so I feel like a lot of times men are like anti the modern woman because they don't feel worthy. They don't feel like they are a part of their life. And so it becomes like a battle of the sexes thing. But the actual truth is, I mean, don't you just want to be wanted just for you? Like, we don't need you for those things that, sorry, I'm in my car driving. We don't need you for those things that it used to be, and then, you have this whole conversation about men who are providers, but then there are women who provide as well. They can cover stuff. And then, I mean, I just see it on the internet. It just becomes noise after a while. But I get it. I see that the conversation has to be a new conversation because we're living in a time and age where, first of all, economically, it looks way different. And then in terms of like joy, like a lot of women stayed in horrible marriages because you're supposed to do that, and there was no joy in it. So women and men should just be happy. Like, I'm all for divorce if folks are not happy. That's kind of where I stand on it.
It's a healthier way too, because I was listening to something recently, but anyway, it was like, so you could stay married while the two of you are so unhappy, and it's going to reflect in your family. Your children are going to feel it. They're going to see it, because a lot of times it's inevitable you get on each other's nerves. When you feel trapped, it's like an animal. When they feel trapped, they're going to hurt whatever comes in their way without thinking. And it's the same for people. If you feel trapped in your marriage, you want out, but you can't get out, mainly because you don't want the stigma of being a divorcee. So you stay in that unhappy marriage, and then you end up hurting your children more than when you stay because you stay in for the children. I mean, a lot of us have done it. We have stayed for the kids, but it's never a great idea, because in the end, in the long run, it never ends up working out, because you're still hurting your kids by the way you are towards each other.
Yeah, and I just think I'm pro divorce because I just feel like there's too many people who are married unhappily and married because that's we're supposed to do that for the wrong reasons, and I just feel like, bump that. We should be living a life of joy and content, happiness, whatever that looks like, whether it's monogamously or polyamorously, whatever love style people have, and then when you look at these marriages where people have all these extracurricular relationships because they can't have transparent conversations about what they need and what they don't need, then it just becomes just like this phony fake thing. It's just phony fake. I have friends who have been married, who either are married or have been married, who's, oh, my husband can't know that, don't tell my husband, or shh, don't talk about, you know what I mean? Like, they just have this secret life that they have to live because the person who they've given blood, sweat, and tears to, children and everything, can't know their truth, their actual truth. I just find that to be so unfortunate.
Exactly. I agree. We have a comment. Simply Bree said, it's interesting because for men, if you aren't able to provide for your family, your manhood could be questioned. So that's additional pressure as well.
it's a lot of pressure for men. I promise you. And as somebody who was married, it's a lot of pressure for men to um where men are expected to be the same man that was expected the same man that was expected 50 years ago. But like Sky
Right.
said, economics have changed, you know, social economics have changed to where you need two incomes, right? But
Right.
the expectation is the man, a lot of times, the man is still supposed to do all the providing, right?
Yep.
However, you can't survive on one income a lot of times. Like it's difficult to survive on one income, especially when you got kids and all the responsibility that come with it.
Right.
So the expectations are the same, but the situations are totally different, right?
Yeah. It's a
That's
different
not fair
standard.
to anybody. That's not
It
fair to
isn't.
anybody. It's like we would like everything has to change. And this is what my issue with marriage was, where I'm like, how can marriage not change when everything around us changes, right?
Right.
As far as like who's responsible for what, you know, women ain't in the kitchen and just having babies like they were 50 years ago. So how is it that the man has the same responsibilities that he had 50 years ago? Right? 50 years ago, you could if you made $50,000 50, 60 years ago, you were doing good. You could have had 5 kids and put them all through college. You know what I'm saying? It ain't
Yep.
like that no more. It ain't like that no more. So the pressure is real for sure.
Yeah, I just find that I think people need to be realistic, and I just don't see that happening at all. And I find I heard the terminology that I heard once was the business of the relationship, and I find that people really don't have that conversation. They do
Yeah.
the romance of the relationship, but
Yeah.
the business, once you join in as a couple, at
It's a business.
couple, whatever, it's a business. So now we have to figure out how we're going to finance this business and how it's going to work, so it's successful. And I feel like people are way too romantic with real life, and that's why it fails so much. So
It's
And I
funny that you
think
mentioned that at the end of my marriage, I literally was like, you know, we was having all this romance stuff that just wasn't working or whatever. But that was just part of it. And I literally proposed like, hey, let's just focus on the business of our relationship. Let's just focus on we got a kid, we got a house, we got a little start, you know, a little, you know, online thing that we're trying to do. You know what I mean? I was trying to look, we got these things. We got cars in the driveway. We got debt together. We got a house. We got the kid. We got a business. Like, let's just focus on that because that's about 80% of our relationship, right?
absolutely.
And if you go by the 80-20 rule, we ain't got to worry about the romance right now. Let's focus on the 80. And because my wife, she wanted all the things, we couldn't manage it, right? But it's so important, like you said, Sky, is to really put some energy and some effort into the business of your relationship because after all that shit is said and done and all the romance, even especially if you're monogamous, right?
right.
Because you're not getting that 20% from anywhere else, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're open, okay, you can kind of balance the scales a little bit. But if you're monogamous, you definitely gotta make sure that you up on your business because you can let romance go if you got $100,000 saved. You know what I'm saying? You can like figure some things out if your kids are thriving, if your house is looking good, your cars are paid off, and you got money in the bank, you got a business, you got jobs, all that stuff, health insurance and life insurance. You got all that stuff going, but you and your husband don't have sex. All right, y'all can figure some things out. But if you got all the romance and the business sucks, what are you doing? What are you
Right.
doing?
And it's almost like if the business of the relationship is not in order, how are you getting romantic? There's ain't nothing to get romantic for.
That's a good point. That's a good point. So you can't have one without the other. You know what I
Right.
mean? You
How
can't have one without
who's
the other.
getting juicy on some no money in the bank type shit? You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
not
So
interesting.
yeah, I feel you on that. But it's I date and and if anybody listening, if you're planning on getting married, put that shit in your vows, right? Like, talk about the
That
business. Like, nobody talks. I did 11 weeks of premarital counseling before I got married, and not one time did they talk about the business of a marriage. It was, the biggest thing they talked about is a woman is a crock pot and a man is a microwave, right? They tell you gotta wait, you gotta warm your wife up all day, but a man can go like that. But they never talked about the business of the relationship. They just talk about, oh, it can be hard and dit. Nah, they don't talk about the business of the relationship.
They don't. Well, I mean,
They don't prepare you.
they even frown upon people who want a prenup. Why do you need a prenup if you love the person? You should be able to do this, do that. I think it's on us to teach our children differently, to let them know you can still love a person with all your heart, but at the end of the day, you still have to be practical. That's what they don't teach us. They didn't teach us to be practical about relationships in general, not just marriage, especially marriage, but relationships in general. They don't teach us to be practical. So
I mean, I come from a long my whole life. I've never really been into marriage. I've always just looked at it as like whatever society is forcing people to do. I always look at it from like different eyes, and so I just don't even really see the benefit of it for either party, especially with these a man got to do and a woman got to do values. I just don't see it. If there was to be a marriage of some sort, it would have to be some type of alternative, non-traditional thing in my life. I mean, I actually had a non-traditional marriage for 10 years. So we weren't about the regular standard marriage type thing. And so that was good. I did that already. But going forward, if I were to do it again, it would still have to be on some alternative thing. I don't necessarily see the need for it. I don't even see its place in my life, because I mean, I do want someone to commit to me or have some type of committed, but a lot of it does look more business than anything, because the truth of the matter is I get romance wherever from me, but the part that I would want to connect with someone on would be the business of the relationship, because I would want to lean in with someone who wants to, like, let's go get some properties, let's do this like investment thing, let's go to Puerto Rico and buy some houses, like stuff like that. I wouldn't mind having a person who I'm really committed and connected to do that with. On the other hand, on the flip side of that coin, is it don't really have to be anyone who is an actual partner. You get what I'm saying? Like, that could be like a best friend or a girlfriend. I mean, it don't even have to be, you can do a lot of building with any, anyone who feel like is good for you. It doesn't Life doesn't always have to look whole tradition, because at the end of the day, a lot of people do relationship conversation. And
where you well, you're breaking up a lot.
let me
I think she's trying to get situated. She's probably transitioning.
I get a point. I get a point for sure
Yeah,
about again, but yeah, that I think that business of the relationship is really, really poignant, is on time. I think that and you know what the point that I wanted to make was, if you look at how a marriage is set up, it is exactly how a business partnership is set up.
right.
That's exactly how you set up a partnership, a LLC with partners. That's exactly how you set it up. It's set up just like a corporation. If you break up a corporation, you get divorce. Like we say divorce, but divorce is a lawsuit.
It is.
You get sued for divorce.
Totally. Totally.
You
I
know what
mean,
I'm saying?
even the paperwork.
Just the language in it.
Yeah.
It tells you everything you need to know. The
Yeah.
language of it tells you how terrible it is. You get sued for divorce. You have to hire a lawyer. You can't just do it yourself. You can't just say, all right, you know, I want out of this relationship. You have to get the law involved.
Yeah, very
To,
few
to
people.
not be with somebody, you have to get the law involved. And that is nuts to me.
And
I
that's
don't
why
want to be with this person and it's going to cost me money to
that's why
not
I
be with
always
this person.
said I don't ever want to be married again. It's not because of the marriage part. It's the divorce part because it costs so much money. It should not be that hard. If it doesn't work out for
It
us to
should
just
be the other way. It should
wait.
be hard to get married. You know,
Exactly.
you have to pass a couple tests and, you know, we should bring back dowries. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to prove that you can get married. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Because
It makes
everybody
it
can
so
get
easy
married.
to get married, but so hard to get a divorce. So that's why I'm like, the divorce, and so many people after their divorce end up with trauma, a lot of trauma.
I
It's
know
not,
why. I see why, man, because it's, you know, it's not, not only are you going through this traumatic thing, but just to finish it up, you
yes.
got to go through a whole bunch of things. And now people's emotions are involved. So it makes it an ugly situation because we human, right? And we got emotions and we going to flip out. And you know what I'm saying? It's not going to be pleasant for anybody. And
I remember when I was going through my divorce. I mean, it took about 2 years for the judge to find. I mean, mind you, it was a little bit before the pandemic. It started before the pandemic, but it was still a long process actually. It started way before the pandemic, but it didn't end until like that end of the 2020. And when I heard those words, I broke down in tears. It felt like a weight was lifted off my shoulders because it was such a long process. It was draining emotionally, physically, financially, all of it. So when I heard those words, finally the judge said it. It was like, oh my God, I could breathe. You know, it was like somebody was sitting on my chest, hey, and got off of it. So yeah, it shouldn't be that hard. They should make getting married really hard, not the other way around.
but that ain't gonna happen
I
because
agree.
that's anti-system. You know, that's
Exactly.
anti-system to do it the other way around. Because if you made it hard, guess what? Nobody would do it. And if nobody
Exactly.
did it, you can't
The
pay
money's
into
not
the system.
coming.
You can't pay into the system because if you get married, guess what you got to do next? You got to buy a house. You got to pay more taxes. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And it doesn't fit into the system if they reverse that, because then people will stop doing it. Well, why am I gonna do it if it's gonna be so hard? You know what I'm saying?
Right,
Especially when we got a whole abundance of free thinkers now, who's
right.
not plugged into that type of system. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? And
Yeah,
yeah, don't forget that, you know, you splitting assets and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's crazy. It's absolutely
yeah,
crazy how this system works. You know, and this is supposed to be a love business, and it's just not.
Exactly.
You know.
I
it's
mean, a big part of, you just said it, the big part of the business is that divorce. I mean, society makes it very difficult to stay married on purpose. You know what I mean? They make it very challenging for people to stay married. So, divorce lawyers make tons of money, you know?
they gotta get paid.
Big bill. That's a
So
$1 billion industry. Like, how is breakup of people a $1 billion industry? Like, it's
it's
ridiculous.
it's good for business.
You would think
It
it
is.
was the diamond industry, right? So you got the diamond industry, the bridal industry, you got the divorce industry. They all $1 billion
They're all
industries. Nuts.
connected.
It's
Yeah.
nuts. It's
Yeah.
nuts.
Well, I think we're the minority who thinks this way, because I think at the end of the day, most people have drank the Kool-Aid and they want to be married. Um, and they think their life is not like, I have friends who are single and still looking for their one true love. And I'm just in a place where I don't even think it works.
I'm asking questions like for people that want to get married, and people say that I'm a little cynical about marriage, but I'm asking questions like, matter of fact, I asked this online one day. Nobody answered it, but it was like, for anybody who's looking for marriage, what do you think is over there? Like, what do you think is over there? What do you think is over there that she's like, I gotta find my person. I want to get married. I saw something today where, how people joke online, but it was something like, I can't wait to be the woman that says, let me check with my husband first. I mean,
Right.
it was cute and funny, but that shit is going to last 2 years, man. Like, that's not sustainable. It's not
2.5.
sustainable.
Mm,
And not to use the term modern woman, but we all modern, right? We all modern. Like, I'm not the man that my daddy was in the 80s. You know what I'm saying? He was a different person than I am now. You know what I'm saying? My dad was
yeah.
46, 30 years ago. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
I'm not the man that
and
he
the
was. We're living different times.
and the part that folks don't seem to realize is was that really a working system for real? Was that
No,
really
not for women.
was what
Not for
grandma
women.
dealt with working? Was she happy? Was she really was that whole because I married my husband till he died? Was that really a working
No,
situation? Because I felt like it was a whole bunch of bullshit.
it
And
was, especially for the
right.
black, especially for the black
Yeah.
family, because a woman, again, her value was based on how she married. She had to get married. A woman of value had to get married back then, because how do you survive? Like, what are you doing if you're not getting married, right?
Mhm.
Having kids. You are as valuable as your husband is, right? You are under his thumb, right? There, women, you could not buy land, you could not rent an apartment, you couldn't get a job. This is only 60 years ago. This is one generation ago. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
It's not like that anymore, obviously. So
I mean,
we're
the
all
whole taking his name is a whole thing, you
taking
know?
his name, taking his name, your father giving you away at your wedding. That is
There
rooted
you
in
go.
the most patriarchal bullshit that you can ever do. Like, literally, a man raises his kids, he's got a daughter. Because she's a woman, she is the property of a man, her father. Literally, he gives her away. She is yours now. Rooted in terrible
Possession.
patriarchy. They think it's cute. Who
Yep.
gives her away? I do. She's your problem now.
Yep.
Like, take
Mm,
your name. She had my name. She takes your
Now
name now,
she's taking your
because
name.
now you own her.
yeah.
Oh my God, it's a whole lot you just said right here. What's a whole lot?
But that's
Yeah,
what it
but it's
all. That's what
exactly
the
what it
division
is. That's
is,
exactly what it
right?
is.
You know what? It's
This,
amazing though, because it's coming from a man. Because before they say we, the women, are the ones bashing marriage, I am so happy it's coming from a man, because they always think, oh, it's because women this
no,
and that.
listen, women
Right.
got the short end of that stick for sure, and that's why they call it the patriarchy. Like, it ain't. That's the reason why it's called the patriarchy, right? The men, they made up all the laws. It was a time where only wealthy landowners could vote. Like, come on, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it took them a lot of years to first, obviously get rid of the whole slavery thing, and then the whole Jim Crow. But then it took another whole other 50, 60 years to get some kind of balance with women. And y'all had hell, and black women definitely had hell. So those
Mm,
years where, you know where grandma was having 8 7 8 kids, but then grandpa had a whole other family, he could do that because he was part of the patriarchal system. Even as a black man, he still was a man, right? So there were things that were afforded to him that were not afforded to black women. Of course, he wasn't up there where a white man was, but there were things that are still afforded to a black man that
Mm-hmm.
wasn't afforded to his wife. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? And a lot of the things still apply. He just happened to be black. But my daddy's daddy and his daddy's daddy still benefited from the patriarchy in that sense.
Yeah.
mhm.
Second class patriarchy, but still patriarchy. And it's, I mean, they had to set up some kind of system, obviously, but they made some hard choices, man. They made some
Mhm.
tough choices, man. I don't know. And
Yeah.
marriage was definitely one of them. How they treated women was definitely one of those hard choices for
I
sure.
mean, I think it's going to be a long time before And it's probably going to be, I mean, a very long time before people realize that it's just an institution that just needs to go away. And you know, I know, you know, religion has a lot to play with the way people set up their lives or what have you, but you know, you can have healthy, successful children in a relationship where the two people are more, you know, like the more cohesive relationships. I mean, if you want both parents in the same household, that's fine. That's super fine, but it doesn't have to be that way either. You could set up your relationships, your life, your children, raising and rearing whatever way it looks like to me. You know, I think children really just require a support team, whatever that looks like. So
Yeah.
We're
Well, I,
educating.
yes. I just
I
put the
think
link.
I think
I know we're at the end of it, but I just put the link in for anybody who wants to jump in quickly and say something. But yes, please continue.
yeah, I just
You froze. You froze. Is it oh, is it me? Mm, I think it
I'm
might
just fucking with you.
not work. Not really worked.
I'm just fucking with you.
That worked.
Patriarchy, patriarchy, patriarchy.
Yes. Somebody said something. Great picture. My, at least the treats sound yummy.
Oh, I think he on the wrong. Think he on the wrong thing.
Wrong
Maybe
it's
chat.
on the wrong, it's
maybe
on
he
the
talking
wrong.
about patriarchy. Patriarchy said yummy to him.
Yeah, I think he's on the wrong video.
But
That's a good one.
yeah, so well, it has been a great conversation. Sky, I know you just joined. We missed you.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Busy
I know life is getting in the way.
running,
They
Nice to
won't
see
let
running.
you again, guy.
you. What?
Yeah, like you.
Well,
I
Yeah.
appreciate you. I appreciate you guys.
thank you so
Doing
much,
your show.
Raheem, for
My
joining
first
us.
time doing this in about, like I told you, probably since December. It's the last time I did a podcast. Thinking about, maybe getting active again. I don't know. Let's see.
So
I I don't know if
you're not doing your podcast anymore?
I'm not doing it anymore because that was my one. I was doing that with my wife, and we have since. So yeah. So
You
I
should
might
do it. I
I
will
might
jump
get into something else. I don't know how much I got to say though. That's the thing. My views are so controversial sometimes. I,
but people like controversy, so
yeah, I don't know how much time I could fill by being controversial. So
we don't have to do it long, 30
yeah,
minutes, 20
yeah,
minutes,
yeah.
whatever. And you
Yeah,
never know when it's
I'll
gonna
end up doing a podcast just inviting women out so I could just flirt with them or something like that.
listen. That
Who wants to advocate
can
for
go
that
up.
pleasure with me for 45 minutes?
That
That's
part.
Maybe
Maggie,
that's a
that's
thing.
great
I just talk to
conversation.
women. Maybe that's a thing. I talk to women the whole time. Just what y'all need. Tell me what y'all need.
Mhm.
A
Everything.
podcast for black women. You know what? Y'all got me thinking now. Podcast for women. I just want women to come and invent and just be free with me.
Women have a lot to say about men.
You know what? See, y'all inspire me. Maybe I'll just do a venting session. You know what I mean? Just let
We
women come on and say fuck y'all. You know what I'm saying?
Women have a lot to say about men and what they do and don't do and can't do and what have you. So
I'm
There's
thinking about that.
always
Might be
something.
an avenue. Might be an avenue. We'll see. Either I'll flirt with them or they'll vent to me. Or both, something like that.
either or.
Yeah. But I
Yeah.
appreciate y'all. Thanks for having me on. Great conversation.
All
And
right.
you know,
Thank you guys for being here. We will see you in a couple of weeks. Again with the Poly Pimps. Thanks again, Raheem, and you guys have a great evening.
All
peace.
right.
Bye.
See you later.